Hello, welcome to round 3 of the Daytona Super Champs down in Sandown Park. You're joining me on the run up to my quali lap. So late apex in to the final corner and we're across the line. Head down, trying to get as much straight line speed as possible. It's very, very cold today, so very slippery. Into turn 1 and then braking into turn 2. Braking a little bit early, missing the apex, not the finest start to the lap. Into turn 3 now, using the curb slightly on the runoff, and now into turn 4. Little bit of oversteer on the way in, that's okay. Gets the kart turned. Turn 5, just trying to keep it nice and tidy down here. You want to keep that tidy so that you can get a good exit. Turn 6, turn 7, quite a lot of movement in the wheel there, and then turn 8, loads of oversteer into the corner. I kind of did that a little bit on purpose, just to try and get the kart turned. Now that lap time was 0.4 seconds off pole, so we are starting P3, but we are starting P1 in class. The two ahead of us are lightweights. We're surrounded by lightweights, we're in heavyweight class, and we're off. And again, just want to say massive thank you to Aidan and Nick Fallon, who are filming some of the outboard shots here. It really brings a really interesting perspective. So here we are, someone goes very aggressive into turn 1. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work out. Very brave, I'd like to respect that. And of course, here come the Sodis. Now the Sodis are on track with us at exactly the same time, though they start slightly differently. It's a rolling start for everyone. So just going back, this is my start. And you can see here, I get a terrible launch. Really badly bogged down. 3 places lost already, just about 4 places lost. So we've got our friend going all the way around the outside. We've got Andrew Clark there, who just got a snap of oversteer, and by virtue of having the inside line, we retain, take those 2 places back. Good minimum apex speed at turn 3, but we go into the back of Tom Brown, and that really ruins our exit. And looking behind, the guy in the green suit is Anthony Unit. Now he had a really disappointing qualifying. I believe he was blocked on his quali lap. So very unfortunate. He was starting well down the grid, but he has made loads of places up, and he's now right behind us. So lap 1 complete, 1 place lost. But just at the end of lap 1, we are right on the back now of Tom Brown. And again, here you can see we've got Babulau, Bolton, Brown, me, Anthony Unit. So Anthony and I are heavyweights, and then we've got the rest of them lightweights. Tom gets a snap of oversteer in the exit of turn 1, and almost half thinking about a move up there, maybe a little bit of a lunge. However, there's a good reason not to do that, and that is that round 3 of the Super Champs is really more of an endurance race. Alright, so this is called the race to 100, and that means we're doing 100 laps. That is really, really interesting actually, because for those of you who don't know, the Dmax karts won't do 100 laps on 1 tank of fuel, as we just get really wide there. We miss the apex slightly, and just by getting on the power at the same point and not really recognising we missed the apex, as I put the power on and got a little bit of oversteer, I had to steer into the barrier, but actually it didn't cost us too much time. Maybe that's quite a good line. Hit the barriers as Tom turns around and loosens his head off a little bit, sees we're still there. Just here actually, this is a bit of a metaphor for the day. Like absolutely loads of oversteer, and it's not over yet. There we go. The steering goes right over onto the stoppers. Very, very lucky to get away with that, and I'm a bit confused as to why that happened. It's a very, very cold day today, and there wasn't much grip, but just a bit confused as to sort of some of the handling. Now, again, without wishing to spoil what you're about to see, this isn't the only kart that I drove today, and in neither of the karts did I feel particularly comfortable with the balance. Now, normally, I'm able to sort of shuffle things around a little bit with my driving style, and if you're getting sort of a bit of understeer, then I might brake a little bit later into the corner and have a little bit more weight over the front axle. If I'm getting oversteer, I might brake a little bit earlier and then power through the corner. So that's what I'd normally like to do, but today found it quite difficult to find this balance, and particularly with the other cars, absolutely catastrophic understeer. So yeah, trying to cure that with a little bit of power oversteer, but then the rear would break away as well. Yeah, so pretty challenging conditions, you know, and I wasn't as quick today as normally I have been in the rest of this championship. Now I've been looking at the times, and I've been both the in-car and the super champs that we're doing now, and sort of typically I'm about 2/10 off the fastest lightweights, which I'm pretty pleased with actually, considering there's a sort of 15 to 20 kilogram difference in weight. It seems to have been about 2/10. You see that my quali lap was 4/10 slower, so a little bit down, but actually my race pace was worse than that, and we don't blame the karts, because there's really no point in doing that. You just kind of stop yourself from learning. We're getting a little bit of field spread, and again there's some wanted to include some wonderful outboard footage from Aidan and Nick Fallon there. So starting to lap some Sodi karts now. These are sort of some of the last Sodi karts. This is the business end of the Sodi kart battle, you'll notice that we've got this field spread. So Tom has moved away from me, and Matthew Bolton and Philip Babulau, they're just spreading out. So it's looking a little bit like a slightly boring Formula One race. But what I was going to say before was that this is the race to 100. So we're going to have to do a pit stop. So that's going to be really interesting. I've never done a pit stop in a kart race before, so you know, hoping it goes well and everything, and thinking about tactics. You know, when to pit and when to box as well. You have to think about fatigue. You have to think about if it starts raining. You have to think about if you're coming up to traffic. So I was really enjoying the challenge of considering when I might pit and everything like that. But this is a bit of showboating into turn 6. There we are, getting the rear out. It's good fun to do that. I'm not sure if it's always the quickest way, but sometimes you might want to get the kart turned and get on the gas a little bit earlier, just like there. So 100 laps. Now, in terms of what that equates to in time, this race was an hour and 16 minutes, and just there we were getting times up on the board. The marshals were telling us how long had gone. Now that one is important because that's 25 minutes. Now that means that for me the pit window is open, and we're coming up to a whole group of Sodi karts. So we don't really want to. Whenever you're sort of lapping people, you tend to lose a little bit of time. As I miss the apex there, just thinking about a way in which I can get past them. Notice that the Sodis have got pretty good grip around the corners, and the pull out of the corners is also very good. So, you know, the only place that we're substantially quicker than them is when we kind of get into the straights and twisty part of the track. It's pretty difficult to get past. But if I just slow it down again and we look to our left, you'll see there is the figure of Philip Babulau there. He's having his pit stop. Now, one of the really important things about this is that there is only one fuel bowser. So if you turn up and someone else is already in the pits, you're going to have to wait, and that is going to be absolutely disastrous. So I brought my dad down with me today, and I'm very grateful to not have to do the 2-hour round trip after having driven for about an hour and just under an hour and 20 minutes. But he's also proving a very valuable resource because I positioned him with sight to the pit entrance. Now, you might just about be able to see now. In fact, you can't see if there's anyone in the pit lane there. Difficult to see if there's anyone in the pit lane here as well, although you can just about tell. But my arm goes up and I get the signal to say that the pit entry is clear. So there's my dad just there, and so we're going to dive in. There's Nick and Aidan Fallon, little wave to them. And this, I'm afraid, is a little bit farcical. So I don't really know where to stand, so I go for this area here. They tell me to go stand by the cone. I fall over the the tyres there, and fuel goes into the cart. You can see me waving, having to laugh at myself a little bit there. But yeah, fuel's going in. Doesn't take too long actually to fuel it up. So fuel cut back on, back into the seat, and then nothing. So absolute disaster. I thought it was going to be the battery. However, it turns out I think something snapped. So we have to go for a kart change. Probably lost about 30 to 40 seconds doing this. If you are going to break down, the pit lane is the best place to do it. So yeah, it's not like last time. But there in the green suit is Anthony Unit. So we've actually lost the lead. We had a reasonably comfortable margin over him before the pit stops, but we've lost that. It's cost us loads of time. And look how much understeer, oversteer we're getting. There's Matthew Bolton. Just have a look at how much faster he is. On his warm kart with warm tyres. Look at this. Look at absolute catastrophic understeer. Look how much further Matthew Bolton is down the road as we're trying to grapple with this freezing kart. It was really, really cold today, about 3-4 degrees. I'm wearing a full set of thermals. I'm wearing gloves under my gloves. And this engine is cold. The oil is cold. The tyres are cold. The brakes are cold. I'm just trying to do my best to get a little bit of energy into the tyres, in particular into the brakes, but I was losing. I lost about 3.5 seconds a lap whilst this kart was cold. Yeah, Anthony Unit went by, but we can't see him now. Now this kart does warm up, so we do start making a little bit of headway, and you can see here it's like last time it was horrific around that turn 3, wasn't it? It was almost like driving in the wet. It was so cold and such a lack of grip. But this car, even though it does warm up, was not quick. I'd say that the brakes actually had a little bit more feel. I quite like the brakes on this car, but in terms of the tyres, very, very little grip, even once the car warmed up, and in particular the fronts. And you can see here I'm not troubling any apexes. The front tyres were really, I think they must have been old. This car, I can see by looking at the data, looking at the times, was about 4/10 slower than the car that I had before. In actual fact, I set my fastest lap of this race on lap 6, when the sort of track and the weather and everything was much colder, when there was far more fuel in the kart. So yeah, I would have thought that the fastest lap should have been set towards the end of this race, but I still wasn't doing lap times as quick as in my first kart. So of course the cold will be some of the reason for that, but certainly once the car had warmed up, there was no real reason to be substantially slower. So I'm just going to move it on a bit, because we get our head down and we keep pounding away, and there you can see Anthony Unit, and this is actually for the race win now. So I've got a bit of a job to do on track. One of the things actually, as we're kind of just inching up to Anthony, one of the things that I was thinking about, I was having a chat with my dad on the way down about when to pit, we're thinking, we weren't entirely sure. It didn't rain at all actually. In the end it was quite a nice day, as I make a very ill-judged move on a Sodi there, not really the space, so apologies to him for that. Just waving some apologies there. Costs us time when you do that. Sometimes it's better to just think about whether you're actually likely to make that move stick, and if you're not, you probably lose less time by staying behind. But it's interesting actually, looking back at some of this footage. This is obviously a bit of an edit. My battery didn't do the full hour and 20, so I had to edit it. And also, actually, the other thing I'd say is that there were no yellow flags in this race. Everyone was very well behaved, and actually that's really exhausting. An hour and 20 minutes racing is really, really exhausting. I was having a chat with my dad, just going back to my previous point about when to pit. If it starts raining, pit then. That's going to be everyone else much slower. If you're in traffic, pit then. The other thing I was thinking about was to pit relatively early as we're thinking about a move on Anthony, but I was thinking about pitting relatively early, and the reason I was thinking that was because I believed that the batteries might stand a better chance of failing if you've done a long stint on them rather than a shorter stint. So bit of an interesting point there. So I did pick quite early, but ended up still not working out. And actually, that's the second mechanical that I've had in as many races. So bit tricky. You can see here as well the lack of grip in this car. We've got Sodi. This is one of the front running Sodis on our left. It's pretty difficult to get past them. We've lost loads of time. If you think back a lap ago, we were almost thinking about a move on Anthony into turn 6 there, but miles behind this lap, so it's taken us a little while to get past that Sodi. Short championship, and we've had two failures in 3 races, so a little bit unfortunate. But in the last round, I had to walk back to the pits from the other side of the track, so we lost loads of time. Actually, this time, failing in the pit lane only cost us about 30 seconds or so. So, in actual fact, if you are going to have a failure, then the pit lane is the place to do it. As we think about a move on Anthony there again, doesn't come off, and you can see how much time we've lost by sort of being offline and making our half moves there. Not really a sensible thing to do unless you are going to be fully committed. But you know what, this is we're sort of well over an hour into the race now, and a bit of fatigue is beginning to set in as Anthony gets blocked there. This is one of the leaders in the Sodi battle here as well. Just thinking about a sort of slight move, but not enough space, so we have to back out. A couple more Sodis up ahead, but they're a reasonable distance away, so don't think we're going to make it into this lap. And again, recognise this time that we're not close enough, so we're going to just sit behind. This is a potential overtaking move, but you do have to be drawing alongside into the braking zone. It's quite a wide entry with quite a substantially different set of entry lines into turn 4. I quite like it actually. When I first started coming down here, I used to spin around turn 4 because you're braking and turning at the same time. Anthony gets a snap of oversteer round turn 1, and that opens up the gap for us into turn 2. Now he gives us space, very good. He doesn't force us onto the grass. We force him narrow, and that means that we get better drive out of turn 3. We're narrow this time, and that means that Anthony gets better drive out of turn 4, but the track goes right, and that is job done. So again, took us about half a lap. Fantastic battling. I really like driving with Anthony, and actually all of the guys who are involved in the championships down at Sandown Park, particularly in the Dmax, because there is a lot of very, very hard but very, very fair racing actually, it's just really, really rewarding. So if you do want to have a really good, fair, clean battle, then I would recommend coming down here, because I've been here for a little while. So that was it. That was the top 3. So we've got myself, Anthony, and Andrew Clark there. This is the position in the championship with 1 round to go. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in a month for the final round.